Hey guys, what is up? Mike here, and we are going to pick up exactly where we left off in our last video, where we converted all of our controllers to use Typescript's ES6 style classes. So as a quick recap, we'll convert this Angular 1 factory to use an ES6 style class. So what we'll start off doing is creating a class of chats right above our Angular.module definition. This class will have a constructor with no dependencies, and then we will copy the fake data from our old factory and just paste it inside of our new constructor. From here, we will remove the var keyword and replace it with this. And then we will create a chats property on this class. This property will have a type of any kind of array. Then we'll take our methods and then paste them right below our newly created constructor. Then we'll select all the colon and function keywords and just delete them. Our last bit of cleaning up is we will replace all the instances of the variable chats with the new this.chats property from our constructor. We'll remove the commas between the methods since they are no longer needed and replace them with semicolons. Then we can finally remove the anonymous function down in our factory and replace it with the newly created class chats. Now the typings from TSD expect a factory to return data using $HTTP, so we'll change this factory to use a generic service method instead. Now if we want to use this service in our controllers, the editor couldn't give us any kind of hints about the methods on this class, what they accept, or just how to use this code in general. To get code completion, we need to use something called Typescript interfaces. These are essentially code contracts that say this bit of code expects these properties and has these methods on them. So we'll create two interfaces, one for the chat service and then another interface describing each of the objects that we have inside of our chat array. What we're also going to do is add export in front of our two interfaces as well as our class. Then we'll wrap the interfaces and the class in a new ES6 module definition. We'll call the module services, close up the bottom, and then we'll come down to our angular.services and change the name from chats to services.chats. Now, the reason for doing this is so that way when we go inside of our controller and actually start adding type annotations, we can properly pull in the code that we need and have everything available to us. So to get started, we'll create the interface for the chat user object. And what we can do is copy the data from the object and just paste it inside of our interface. Now we can use the values from this data and actually get hints about what kind of types we should be adding to this code. We have a ID property here, and this has a number value. So we can assume that it will have a type of number. The last three are all returning strings, so we can assume that these properties will all have a type of string. Now, inside of our class, we can change the type for our chats property from any kind of array to an array of iChats users, the interface that we just created. Now, to add type annotations to these methods, we can take the names of all the methods that we have in our class and start copying them and moving them over to our interface. For our first type, we'll work with the all method. So we can expect this to do nothing but just return an array of iChats users, the interface for our users object. For our remove method, we need to pass a chat object, and this chat object is going to be typed with a type of iChats user, the interface for our single user object, so that way we know we're actually passing in the correct thing. For our get method, it's going to expect a chat ID to get passed in, and we can add the type of string to that and then call this method complete. Now, the last thing we need to do is to tell Typescript that our class should have this kind of functionality. So what we'll do is come down to our class and add implements iChats service to finish things in this file. So let's open our controller.ts file and start using this interface. First, we'll add a reference to the services.ts file right below the main TSD file reference. Now, anywhere we're injecting the chat service, we can add the proper type annotation from the interfaces we just wrote. Let's look at our chats controller. We can go to the chats in our constructor and add the type of services.iChats service. Now we can go into our constructor and write this.chats equals chats dot, and we can get code completion from the interface that we just created. In this case, we want all, add the closing brace, semicolon, and we are done. If we wanted to use this remove method, we can use the this.chats.remove, and we can see that it expects a chat object to get passed along. Now, where interfaces get really interesting is when you need to extend an already existing interface and create your own that has custom properties that you want added to it. In this case, we have this $stateParams, and when we give it a type of ng.ui.iStateParams, we'll get a warning that the property of chat ID does not exist on $stateParams. To resolve this, we'll create our own interface, and we're just going to call this iStateParams. And this will extend the interface for ng.ui.iStateParams. So we'll just add a chat ID property and give it a type of string. Then we'll come down to our constructor and change the type of $stateParams to iStateParams, and our warning will go away. So we have inherited everything from the original interface, but now we have our own custom property. In our next video, we'll take all of this code that we just converted and look at how we can migrate this over to a brand new Ionic 2 app.